because you see a person that they're happy, that doesn't mean that they're not grieving.
Maisha Clark shares her story about losing her daughter.
She was my only child, and we pretty much grew up together. So it was a new journey that I was on.
Through the difficult time, Maisha managed to find help and push through. Maisha says the free grief sessions offered at Piedmont Macon changed her life.
If I had a bad day and I miss my daughter all day, I cried all day, it's okay to come to the group and tell them because they'll understand. Versus I may tell a friend and they don't understand, because some people feel like you should just get up and go on about your life. But life doesn't. We don't always feel like just get up and go.
The love and support the group shows makes those dealing with grief feel like they're not alone. Maisha says when she has a good day, she acknowledges that.
We don't always just share bad feelings. We can come in and share when we feel good too. And it just feels good because we know how it is to not feel good. You're missing that person.
The grief sessions are offered weekly at Piedmont and is open to anyone who needs help. Maisha says she's grateful she reached out and has others to walk the walk with her.
To be in a safe place where people understand and they embrace you, and it really is like a big hug.
In Macon, Karlisha Booze, Carly B TV. For the month of April, we're focusing on mental health and how to deal with mental health. And today we are joined by Franchetta Trawick. She's with Piedmont Macon. She's a grief counselor, and she's here to talk about, one way that people can deal with their mental health. And thank you so much for joining us, Ms. Franchetta.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So we know that mental health pretty much affects how people think, feel, and act. And also, it also helps determine how we deal with stress or grief. And Piedmont Macon offer grief sessions that you host. And so, can you just talk to us first thing first? What is grief?
Grief is your emotional reaction to a loss. And a lot of times we focus specifically on a loss being the death of someone, but grief may also be the loss of a job or a divorce. Any physical absence that causes an emotional reaction due to that loss, we consider that grief. We call that grief. My focus, of course, with our support groups are those people who are feeling the effects, the emotions of physically losing someone, which is their grief is due to the loss of a loved one.
Okay. Now, as we know, we've talked to several people about, dealing with grief. And, one of our uh, interviewees that we talked to, also say it's hard to deal with and it's always good to talk to someone. So in these grief sessions that you offer weekly, as a matter of fact, you guys are the only in Middle Georgia that offer those weekly grief sessions. Just talk to me about why is it so important just to be able to sit down and just talk to someone about grief?
Well, first of all, I think what I've noticed through the 20 years of this grief support group that we have hosted here at Piedmont is the fact that you have to connect with someone. And a lot of times when you're experiencing a loss, in your head, you think, I'm the only one that is experiencing this. So when you're with other people that have experienced loss and they are sharing with you their experiences, how did they get through the initial onset of the loss? What did they do when they're trying to reorganize emotionally, physically, just back into society? What's the reinvestment in life? A lot of times when you are in the throes of grief, you're not really sure because your emotions are everywhere. So when you have a facilitator, someone that is facilitating the group, who specializes in grief supportive services, but you also have people who are in the group that can tell you their experiences. There's just this common bond that they have, that they realize, you know what, this is not something that I'm just experiencing. Miss Susan, who's in the meeting, who's been here for maybe 2 years coming to this group, she went through the exact same emotions that I'm experiencing now. And this is where she is now. So we're able to share wisdom on personal journeys that you've had during your grief encounters. And the one thing about grief support groups, which is so important, is that grief never really ends. It's where you place that in your emotions, in your day-to-day life. And having a grief support group or grief counselor that helps you navigate that and helps you to understand that, you know what, you might be in the throes of grief right now, but later on you might get to that part where you're accepting the physical loss of that person. But at times there are going to be triggers that really maybe sometimes reinforce the throes of grief that you've gone through. So in our group, we explain to each member that, you know, embrace the days that you're feeling okay. Don't feel guilty that, you know, today was a happy day. Today wasn't a day that, you know, I was basking in grief and the emotions, but today was a good day, because a lot of times a trigger from anything, it might be music, it might be just a holiday, it might be something that really puts you back in the very beginning of your grief journey. So having a weekly grief support group helps those people that experience those cycles of grief and the emotions of it, that you're together with people that say, okay, so last week wasn't so good, but moving forward, this is what, you know, this is what we can support you on, or this might be something you can do. We're providing tools that help with the emotions that you might experience that may go from day to day, it may go from week to week, it may go from month to month, it may go where that you are experiencing, you know, a pretty good time, but then something happens like the holidays, and guess what? You feel that, you know what, I'm in that very same place when I first lost my loved one. So we help each other navigate those different cycles that you may experience.
Okay, great. All right. Well, thank you so much, Ms. Trawick, just for sharing that information. But one quick question for the viewers, you know, anyone that wants to take advantage of these weekly sessions, how can they, you know, take advantage of it? Is it something on the website they can visit the website and get involved?
Thank you for asking me that. There are ways that you can do that. We have a website on Piedmont Macon. We have that website. Also, a lot of times you can just call our number, which is 478-464-1401. And I will do an individual consultation with someone who's interested. It can be by phone or they can come in person to meet with me, and we get them started with the group. But I do like to meet with prospective attendee individually, but they can call that number. They can go to our website. It's free. It's sponsored to the community once a week. And a lot of times I'm working with people. If they can't come on the day that we meet, which is usually on Mondays from 2 to 3 o'clock, I'll rearrange my schedule so I can initially meet with them so they know that they've got the support. And if they need to meet with me on a Friday and then come back on a Monday, they can do so. This is all free and sponsored to our Middle Georgia community members who are grieving. We need to have that for their support.
Absolutely. And thank you so much again for coming on the show and just sharing this helpful information. And I hope that it benefits a lot, especially during the holidays coming up. You know, a lot of people deal with that, especially around holidays, birthdays. So this is definitely something of interest for a lot in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing this to the attention to our community. Thank you so much for having me today.
I'm Jeremy Rozier, owner of Rozier Restorations, Macon's premier home restoration specialist. We are restoring this 140-year-old home on Arlington Place back to its former glory. Just one of the countless projects we've completed, and we can do the same for your old home. From roofing and siding, windows and doors, kitchen and bath redesign to full plumbing and electrical, Rozier Restorations is a full-service, one-stop shop for historic homes restored right. Rozier Restorations, we bring history back to life.